inspiring miners to take a stand, Mother Jones and the Coal Wars of West Virginia. In the early 1900s, the most dangerous woman in America was a white-haired woman in her 70s known as Mother Jones. After witnessing the hardships of mine workers in West Virginia, Mother Jones joined the effort to earn fairer working conditions for coal miners through speaking and protesting. Although she disagreed with labor unions, Mother Jones found a way to work with them to achieve success in the coal mining wars. Mother Jones took a stand against large coal companies by leading strikes, protests, and giving speeches against the unfair treatment of coal miners in West Virginia. Her work inspired miners to work for wage increases and their rights as Americans. Coal mining companies spread into rural West Virginia in the 1880s after discovering the abundance of high-quality coal in the mountains. West Virginia had been sparsely populated by hunters and farmers until the Industrial Revolution. Coal companies discovered a large amount of high-quality coal that would be inexpensive to mine. People of diverse culture and backgrounds came to West Virginia when they heard of job opportunities. Mother Jones was born named Mary Harris. She experienced many hardships in her early life. She emigrated from Ireland to America at a young age because of the famine affecting her homeland. She lost her husband and children to the yellow fever and her home to the Great Chicago Fire. Jones was in her 60s by the time she began working with coal miners. Mother Jones witnessed the harsh treatment of miners firsthand. She saw exhausted miners coming home from up to 14 hours of work per day. Miners lived in fear of being trapped in a collapsing mine or being caught organizing or participating in strikes, which was forbidden by coal companies. Children were sent to work in mines at a young age with little to no education. Coal companies attached wooden cribs to the side of freight cars, making the cars hold much more coal than normal, but miners were paid the same small amount per coal car. Mine guards forced miners to follow strict orders and work for excessively long hours by threatening them with weapons. If mine guards heard a miner complaining or discussing rebellion against coal companies, the guard might immediately shoot the worker. Mother Jones claimed that the miners were kept in slavery by the guns of the coal company. Workers and their families lived in small, shack-like company-owned houses and bought from company-owned stores. They were paid in coal scrip, which was a currency that was only accepted by company-owned stores. Items sold at these stores were extremely overpriced, but miners were forced to buy from them because scrip was the only money that they had. Miners and their families felt connected to Mother Jones because she lived like them and spent time with them.
She slept in their houses. She slept on the floor if she needed to. She didn't put on airs. She never got a bigger salary than anybody else.
She donated almost everything she had to poor miners' families, sleeping wherever she could and eating whatever she could find. She called the miners her boys, and they in turn called her Mother Jones. Mother Jones' ability to move a crowd with her speaking helped her to organize strikes throughout West Virginia. In the early 1900s, many miners began to lose hope because mining companies were not changing. In response to their loss of hope, Mother Jones spoke to large crowds of miners in West Virginia, encouraging them to do something about their situation. Mother Jones was not afraid to speak out. "There is no such thing as a fail. We have got to win," she told them. Many people were shocked to see an old woman lecturing miners, unafraid to yell or use profanities when addressing them. Although they were working for coal miners' rights, Mother Jones and the United Mine Workers of America disagreed on how to achieve their goals. Mother Jones thought that coal miners should be able to get what they wanted with no compromise with mining companies. John Mitchell, the president of United Mine Workers of America in the early 1900s, disagreed. He felt that miners should hope for any pay raise or shortened workday, no matter how small.
She felt like they lost touch a little bit with their workers, and she also felt that unions would tend to negotiate too much, that they would lose sight of what the workers needed.
In early 1912, Mother Jones and revolting miners grew more frustrated with coal mining companies and came to the conclusion that something should be done about the situation. Mother Jones heard of large strikes in Paint Creek, and she went to West Virginia immediately to join the protests. As strikers from Paint Creek and Cabin Creek banded together and became more powerful, mining companies joined each other to fight against the strikers. Miners were evicted from their homes, sometimes at gunpoint. they set up temporary tent communities to live in Holly Grove and Mossy, West Virginia. Miners lived in these tents through the winter, the wind and ice biting through the canvas. Although the tents offered a place to stay for coal miners, they weren't safe from the gunmen hired by the coal companies. The gunmen were hired to protect coal company owners. They came from the well-known Baldwin Felts Detective Agency. Mother Jones spoke to mining families who told her of the brutality that they had faced from the gunmen. Numerous shootings happened while miners lived in tent communities during the Paint Creek, Camp Creek strikes. Gunmen attacked miners and their families at night while they were sleeping. Miners responded with shots of their own, but this violence did nothing to improve their situation. The strikers began to lose hope as their situation worsened and more people were killed. Miners asked Mother Jones to go to the governor of West Virginia and ask for aid. On her way there, Mother Jones and 5 other miners were arrested. The reason for their arrest is unknown. The miners were sent to jail, while Mother Jones was kept under guard in a private house. While in captivity, she got sick with pneumonia, but continued to fight for her boys. Mother Jones wrote telegrams to important government figures that she knew, convincing someone who was guarding her prison to smuggle the messages out. After her telegram to Senator John W. Kern of Indiana was read aloud to the entire U.S. Senate, Mother Jones and her cause grew in popularity. After nearly 3 months in confinement, Mother Jones was freed from the private house by the West Virginia governor, Henry D. Hatfield. After over a year of constant fear and violence for coal miners, in July 1913, the strike ended and miners went back to work, with small wage increases, but not enough to satisfy them. In 1914, World War I began, and the need for coal was so high that miners agreed to work without complaint until the war was over. After the war, the tension continued to grow between the miners and mining companies. Miners were striking non-stop across West Virginia from 1919 to 1920. Miners collected guns to arm themselves for the strikes. Baldwin Felts guards were evicting striking miners out of their homes, but the miners were fighting back. They did their best to stop more guards and strikebreakers from going into West Virginia, and they destroyed the mine company's property. In 1921, miners were planning to march across West Virginia, fighting to get rid of armed guards in the mines. Mother Jones saw that this plan would only hurt the miners.
She was standing on the courthouse steps in Charleston, and she waved a document. She claimed it was a telegram from President Harding. She claimed that he had promised to resolve the strike if they would call off their march, and the miners didn't believe her, and they went anyway. And it turned out she was telling a tale. She didn't have any telegram.
Because of this, many miners felt betrayed and lost respect for Mother Jones, and consequently she became less of a powerful leader to miners after this incident. After Mother Jones left the Capitol building, a fight broke out between miners and guards. The fight worsened, and President Harding had to send in the military to stop the violence. This fierce battle was called the Battle of Blair Mountain. There were numerous casualties on both sides, but the exact number is unknown. This was one of the last main uprisings for mine workers during the Coal Wars. The mine wars came to an end with little to no success for miners. Some had gained small wage increases or shorter workdays, but most miners had lost homes, family members, and possessions. Mother Jones grew older, leading less strikes and protests. She was hospitalized several times and settled down in Maryland with friends because of her poor health. Although Mother Jones was unable to join strikes in her old age, she never lost spirit.
And I long to see the day when labor will have the destinies of the nation in her own hands.
On November 30th, 1930, Mother Jones passed away. Her death was mourned by workers of all occupations, whom she had helped and inspired during her long life. Although the coal mining wars of the early 1900s were lost by the miners, Mother Jones was an inspiration to workers across the world. Her speeches brought attention to the harsh treatment of coal miners in West Virginia. She encouraged miners to take a stand for themselves, and when they did, Mother Jones was with them. Although Mother Jones passed away before full justice could be achieved, her work affected the struggle for coal miners' rights for years to come and inspired labor activists to pray for the dead and fight like hell for the living.